Roman Krennikov, who was the overall leader going into the Duel 2, now sits in third place. He is 60 points back of Medeiros and 40 back of Vellner. Sam Quant sits in fourth, tied with Jeffrey Adler in points, but Quant with the tiebreak, and Bjorn Carl Gudmundsson just hanging out inside the top 10 like he always does. Event number 7 is the Texas Oak, presented by GoRuck. Just a 1-rep max lift here, Adrian.
Yeah, just a 1-rep max lift. We're going to watch the athletes take the floor in groups of 4 and then elimination style get down to 1 at a time. And the keys to this event, after talking with Coach Jerry Pritchett right here, he's saying bend those arms, squat down, get that bar high into the abdominals before you extend those hips as fast as possible in order to get the load into the best position that you can. And of course we understand, even like Olympic lifting, speed can win, but only if through that dip and drive phase you get the log traveling vertically and not out in front of you.
And like we did with the women, we are going to start with the tiebreak. It's just a Jerry can carry for time. Just one length down the field, and then these times will only come into play if there's a tie at one of the weights on the log.
We see some of these athletes even staging the bags the appropriate width that's going to optimize the outcome here for them, because every little detail is going to matter. This is going to come down to the fraction of a second.
Transition is crucial.
100 pounds in each bag. Lane assignments on the left side of your screen. And here we go. And it's Ricky Garrard in the middle of the field along with Saxon Panchik. Jorge Fernandez is losing his balance, and Ricky Garrard's going to be the first man across. So Fernandez trying the same strategy that we saw Danielle Brandon employ and almost took a header but was able to save it. And Ricky Garrard's going to have the fastest tiebreak time in heat number 1. There with Tim Paulson on the right and Nick Matthew, who is not wearing a crop top.
I wonder how this will affect his performance here, Sean.
Must have hid the scissors from him. We'll get reset for the second heat of the tiebreak, and then we will get into the main part of this event.
And all kidding aside, we watched the ladies go through these lifts, and we started, as the event unfolded, to really understand the importance and urgency that needed to take place here in this tiebreaker, because we watched most of the field have great success, and then all of a sudden, when one dropped, several dropped at one particular weight.
Yeah, once that log gets heavy, you really start to see athletes drop, and it'll get heavy fast. Like same thing as the women. Like these first couple rounds, all these guys will crush it. Then when it starts getting close to that 300-pound mark, it's really going to start separating the field. But I tell you, these men have a lot to live up to, because the ladies put on an amazing performance tackling that log.
I agree.
That's going to be a tough act to follow. Danny Spiegel was the only woman to lift that Texas Oak. And there's Jason Hopper, who will lead the next heat out onto the field. Behind him is Chandler Smith, followed by Jeff Adler, Roman Krennikov, and then our overall leader, Justin Medeiros, and Pat Vellner, Sam Quant, Bjorn Gudmundsson, Noah Olsen, and Yona Koski. £100 in each hand for these men. One trip down the field to establish their time for any potential tiebreak that is needed during the lifting portion of the event. Final event for the CrossFit athletes here on Saturday night. Only 3 remain after this. We know 2 of them. We do not know the 10th and final event.
Hopper had great success in that initial weighted run to start off the week here. Can he replicate it on this?
Jason Hopper is middle of your screen. He will be on the far right side of the field as the athletes work their way towards you.
All right, folks, here we go.
We're underway. Justin Medeiros out front with Roman Krennikov. This one is pretty even. Jeff Adler
With a great
looks like
push.
he was first. No idea who finished second, as
That was a tight race.
everybody came across at about the same time.
Wow.
9.87 seconds. Roman Krennikov right behind him, and then less than a second separating third from 10th.
Great push right there by Mr. Adler late. Gained control of those sandbags, kept the momentum going forward. And I got to say, he's someone that I'll be watching through this event in itself.
I was going to say, that's some good insurance for him. He's going to should do really well in this event. One of the stronger athletes in the field. And currently sits in 5th place overall.
Got to add some comfort going into it, though, having that tiebreaker out of the way, having a good time.
And Jason Hopper is one of these athletes that I think when we reference back to even the CrossFit Games and the odd object test that took the shape as a sandbag, excelled. And he adapted very quickly to understanding. He has a power athlete background playing football at Clemson. We know that he can do well with external loads, and now it's really going to be up to seeing how can he adapt to this new implement in the form of a log.
I would expect, well, like he did on the sandbag, like we saw with the women that excelled on the sandbag, that excelled on the log. There's a lot of carryover to have an explosion, in the hips, to be able to get that log to the rack position quick and to get that power to drive it overhead.
Yeah, when we think about the lineup that we've got here, we've got men with clean and jerks over 355 pounds from Chandler Smith, Saxon Panchik, Jorge Fernandez, Tim Paulson, Ricky Garrard, Jack Farlow, Nick Matthew, and Jeff Adler all coming in above 355 pounds. Boy.
While we wait for the main portion of this event to start, the men are just already getting some more reps in here before they start the main portion of this event. Ricky Garrard, and behind him is Nick Matthew. See Ricky Garrard working on that technique where he deadlifts it and then gets underneath it.
Gets that right tight in the hip crease. That way, as he squats down and he starts that drive up, I think starts nice and close to him so he can roll that up to his chest.
Heinrich Happelainen getting some reps in. There's Tim Paulson stepping up. About 3 minutes for these men to continue to warm up before we're actually going to start the main portion of event number 7 as the sun is setting here on the Dell Diamond Stadium in Round Rock, Texas. A very busy Saturday, and we still have 1 day left of competition. And still to come later on this evening, we will crown a strongman champion for the 2022 Rogue Invitational. Texas Oak is event number 7, though, for the CrossFit competition presented by Go Ruck. And there is that beautiful implement designed by Steve Slater and his son Landon, very similar to the one that we saw the strongmen use earlier.
Really awesome equipment they build between Rogue and Slater. Just amazing equipment. Strongman and CrossFit now.
We still have the Roga coaster out there in left field. You can see that in the upper left-hand part of your screen.
Just massive sitting out there.
Scott Tetlow and Roman Krennikov working through some warm-up reps. Bjork and Gumanson.
That was really good clean press. Really good technique. If he can keep that as he starts going up, he can be really efficient, use the least amount of energy on these early rounds.
Bjorn Gumanson from Iceland. There's Annika Greer taking some time to be a fan here. Talking over what happened in that log press.
Explain that rack position in that log.
Annika Greer, an athlete that I'm sure we will be watching for quite some time at this level. She had a really good showing at Wadapalooza earlier in the year, then unfortunately unable to submit a score during quarterfinals. That kept her out of semifinals, and now here she is back in live competition. And we saw Bjorn Carl Gudsen as Jason Hopper steps up to that. Gudmundsson from Iceland trains with Annie Thorstadter. Annie Thorstadter, of course, has spent time training with Hafthor Bjornsson. So very likely that crew has spent some time with implements like
They've
this.
seen the log before.
Yeah. Maybe watching that young lady in about 16, 17 years here at the Rogue Invitational.
I think she's ready.
Now the men are making their way out onto the field. We will begin in the same fashion as we did with the women. 4 men will lift at a time until we get down to 10. And then they will reduce that to 2 at a time. And then we will finally end up on the Texas Oak to decide the winner.
You know, and my big thing I want to point out to anyone that's watching this is if they wonder where all the chalk has gone and the chalk shortage throughout the world, it's here. It's here tonight for this event across all the shirts and all the logs.
It's all in Round Rock, Texas right now.
And I think a lot of affiliate owners are having heart palpitations looking at all the chalk that is being spread all over the place. They do not want to see that duplicated in their gyms because someone's cleaning that up.
And we know it's not the members. No, true shout out to all the affiliates out there. And, of course, all the good members that are cleaning up their own chalk and minding the mess that they create each and every day they come in to grind.
We are about set to get started. The first 4 men out will be Scott Tetlow, Jack Farlow, Lazar Jukic, and Tim Paulson. And there is Jack Farlow, the youngest man in the competition, just 20 years old, but a very strong athlete at that young age.
Absolutely. We got to see him stringing together one of the heaviest complexes throughout the semifinals at the Atlas games this spring. So he's probably pretty excited about this particular test.
We start at 260 pounds. Great venue here to host this competition. Second straight year that we've been here at Dell Diamond Stadium. Second straight year we've had the hill out in center field. And then we had the Tower of Power that was out there in the left field corner. That's not there anymore. But it did look like a carnival here when they had everything set up.
Strongman carnival.
Yeah, the roller coaster out there. You had Zeus in the middle of the field. Would not recognize this place as a baseball diamond.
Really amazing that the work and effort, time that Rogue puts into this.
Yeah, the manpower, especially all the volunteers.
Yeah.
Could never make an event like this happen without them.
First round is underway. Scott Tetlow, Jack Farlow on the left, Tim Paulson, and Lazar Jukic on the right. Jukic unable to hit his lift. Farlow will make his. And Paulson is through. Lazar Jukic still competing on a bit of a bum ankle. He rolled it in the opening event on Thursday. And just not able to get through that.
Yeah, that would really affect his power, trying to put those heels through the floor to push that overhead.
Next 4 out, Jorge Fernandez, Heinrich Happelainen, Saxon Panchik, and Nick Matthew.
3, 2, 1, lift.
Round 2 has begun. Nick Matthew is through. He's in the upper right-hand part of your screen. Happelainen and Fernandez hit their lifts, and Saxon Panchik failing.
This is much earlier than I imagined him bowing out at 260, so it's just about refining that technique, keeping that upright position as he finds the bottom of that dip and not letting it pull him forward.
Able to clean it and able to make that lift.
Good comeback. It's a little bit of risk because he gets in the lap and he kicks the hips backwards. It can benefit you because you can get some good hip drive back through, but when you do that, the log is liable to slide down. And then that could affect you as you start rolling up because then your elbow's timed in a lower position.
Next 4 out will be Cole Sager, Ricky Garrard, Yonakoski, and Jason Hopper. Sager unable to clean that weight. Hopper will get through. Koski fails the jerk. Gerard is fighting his way through it, and that will count. Sager and Koski have yet to complete their opening lifts. Sager's going to be unable to complete that. Now Yona Koski to stay alive. And he will do it.
Got it.
Great job, great recovery by Yona. You know, it was one of my initial thoughts is that the men are going to have to be more technical than the women in order to hit equal weights in an event like this.
Yeah, at this weight, to do that, you know, almost like a curl where they're trying to pull it from their legs up, it's getting really tough. At 260 pounds to do that, you can see that with some of the athletes. When you do that, you're really taking it away from your overhead.
Right.
So you get an overhead in the rack position.
Noah Olson, Chandler Smith, Bjorkman Gudmundsson, and Jeff Adler. Smith and Olson are through. Gudmundsson and Adler, no problem. We watched the strongman take on a log lift earlier at 360 pounds, and most of them seemed like went with a minor push press or a press. Why don't they push jerk or jerk more with that weight?
When you get up into the really, really big numbers, there's only been a few guys in history that have been successful doing a split jerk at the upper weights. Now, Rob Kearney has been one that's done really well. Misha Koklaya from Russia years ago, he was very good at the split jerk. But most strongmen haven't been that successful and don't have the timing and don't have the background as some of like these guys that do some of the Olympic lifting to do that split jerk efficiently.
I think about the frame of a lot of strongmen too in comparison to our athletes out here, where there's a constant balance, of course, of mass moving mass. And in our sport, we have to do so much body weight dependent tests and events that we really have got to manage the amount of size that we put on. And of course, that directly affects mobility, hitting particular positions.
Pat Vellner in a bit of trouble here. He failed his first attempt. Second place overall coming into this event, and he cannot afford to let Justin Medeiros gain even more ground. And Vellner takes that thing for a dance, but he's going to save it.
He was close to that edge.
That was an amazing save. Once his left leg hit the pad, I thought he was going down. What a save.
I'm really glad he saved. That would have been bad on an ankle if he'd stepped off that. You're about a 3-4 inch drop off the back of that platform.
We will reset now and add some weight to the logs and move it up to 270. We had just two men bow out at that opening weight, Lazar Jukic and Cole Sager. Let's take one more look at Pat Vellner, who was all over that platform, but able to save this lift on his second attempt. First one no good. And he really needed this.
Yeah, and I think it can be ignored that the overall stamina that it takes to go give this another attempt and finish it successfully the way that he does here in a moment.
Almost stepped off that platform and was able to save it.
And it really looks like he's doing that with no belt, or maybe a very thin neoprene belt.
Jack Farlow, no problem. Tetlow is through.
Tetlow looking strong on that.
Tim Paulson is in the upper right-hand part of your screen. Paulson will get it. Jorge Fernandez, Heinrich Kapelainen, Saxon Panchik, and Nick Matthew up next.
Yeah, those guys making fast work of that weight there on that round.
Says a lot for their shoulder mobility, their core strength, the way some of them can wobble as much as they do and still straighten up with the log. Most, when they get that out of position, would just come back down. There's no way they would be able to straighten it out.
Right.
3, 2, 1.
Names highlighted in white on the left side of your screen are the men who are currently lifting. Fernandez, Hapalainen, Panchik and Matthew. Matthew's through. Hernandez is through. Appolina made his lift, and for the second straight time, Saxon Panchik is struggling.
Much faster clean there.
And Saxon Panchik much better on that second one.
Yeah, and you've mentioned this time and time again, Jerry, but his elbows looked way higher on that rep than he did the first rep.
They got to be in that high position. And you see, looking at that angle where the handles are pointing up, the back of the handle comes up and it's pointing up towards the sky. That's the angle because you want your fist kind of coming back towards your face. That way, that first position is that handle raising up overhead, and then the log starts straightening out.
Coming up next, Ricky Garrard, Yonakoski, and Jason Hopper. Hopper is good at 270. Ricky Garrard is good at 270.
Yona didn't even take an attempt at the shoulder overhead here or the jerk on that last rep, so I wondered if he felt like he was in a bad position.
Clean it, and he will hit it. Next four out, Noah Olson, Chandler Smith, Bjorgvin Gudmundsson, and Jeffrey Adler.
2, 1, lift.
Noah Olson was the first one out. They're all kind of looking at each other. Do we go now? And
there was a bit of confusion in the start there.
Chandler looking sharp.
Chandler Smith is a good press. Gudmundsson is good. Jeffrey Adler is going to drop it. So he and Noah Olson have yet to clear this weight. Olson trying to get the crowd behind him a little bit. Jeffrey Adler stepping back up to 270 as well. Adler just does not seem sure of himself to set up, so he and Olson will bow out. A bit of a surprise here.
Huge surprise there for Adler. He is one of the stronger males in our field.
Wow. You can tell Olson there on the end, on that second clean, he was really wide in his stance. And really hard to generate a lot of power from that wide. But it looked like the clean just took so much out of him to get that clean.
Top four men are up. Quant, Krennikov, Vellner, and Medeiros. Failed clean for Medeiros. Krennikov is through. Sam Quant unable to save it. The top two men in the overall standings have yet to complete their lift at 270. This could be big for Roman Krennikov. Medeiros has the clean. And unable to get the jerk, and now Pat Vellner will not be able to make it. Here's Sam Quant, and Quant stays alive.
For Justin to get this, he's got to hold a tighter rack position, get those elbows high, and keep those wrists locked.
Medeiros has it cleaned, and he will make it.
Right.
Didn't see it, but Medeiros did hit the lift, and that puts the pressure on Pat Vellner, who's. There seems to be a problem here. Medeiros made the lift, and I think someone told Vellner that he wasn't able to go. Vellner was saying Medeiros was able to go. Why can't I go? So now the judge is coming over to get this thing sorted out. We'll have to see how this gets sorted out here.
Yeah, and I think the general confusion here is simply that Medeiros made his lift as time was expiring. So Pat certainly thought that that allowed him to be eligible to begin his lift before the clock initially ran out. So we're going to just wait on the judgment call here.
Let's look at Medeiros' lift here, the successful lift. This was his third attempt.
Yeah, third time's a charm. I was extremely impressed that he had it in him to execute this. But just like you called, Jerry, his elbows were higher. He was in a tighter position. And honestly, the jerk there looked pretty easy for him once he got in a good position.
Looked great. And the last one, if you watch it, as soon as he went to dip, he lost his wrist. Like, instantly came forward. So the lift was over before he even got much, started to drive. I mean, he lost it on the dip.
Now, there is a chance that Medeiros timed out, and that they're going to review it right now to check it. And that would be big because Roman Krennikov was successful at that lift. We will wait to get to 280 pounds as that was the last group to go.
You know, even as we kind of wait for the judgment call here and seeing how we advance forward, Chandler Smith's one of those athletes that we kind of had our eye on with moving this log and having success here. And a lot of it attributes to how he tends to move a traditional clean and jerk. We see some things that we would consider as faults. Early arm bend. He's so strong that he has the ability to still press out jerks even if he doesn't catch them so clean. And with an apparatus like the log, sometimes some of those quote-unquote weaknesses or faults could actually act as a strength for him in this event.
He's doing great so far.
Now the men are trying to stay warm before they step up to 280 pounds.
Yeah, you mentioned this earlier too, Jerry. It's like stalls in play, things that throw you off your game. This is really where we get to see who's going to step up to the plate when the challenge is not even just a workout.
Exactly. You see who the gamers are, can kind of shut it off for a second and just stay in the zone and relax, and then be able to turn it back on when we get ready to get a go time here.
And just a reminder, when you think back to the tie break, if Medeiros did time out, he does have tie break over Vellner. The 280 pounds is on the log, and there is Justin Medeiros, who is pacing towards the back of the pack here. And again, they are trying to figure out whether or not he timed out on that lift. He was on his third attempt at 270.
We have yet to receive an official judgment, but by the looks of his body language, it's...
By the look at him and the way the crowd sounded a second ago, I think we know the answer, but... Be interesting because it had to be close.
Well, the silver lining here for Medeiros is that the man right behind him in the overall standings also may have timed out as well. So Pat Vellner's not going to be able to gain any points on him. It's a different story for Roman Krennikov. Krennikov sits in third place. He's still alive. Now he's got to make up 60 points on Medeiros. And in order to do that, if Krennikov were to win the event, Medeiros would have to finish 13th. So Medeiros did time out on that last lift, and he and Pat Vellner have both been eliminated. Now we start at 280. Scott Tetlow, Jack Farlow, and Tim Paulson. Tetlow is through.
Yeah, he looked strong there. Now, Jerry, you mentioned foot position here. Some of these guys are starting to widen their stance almost in the initial pull. Is that something that you would encourage, or would you encourage them to start with a more traditional, like, narrow base?
I'd want something a little more shoulder width, and then I know sometimes they're stepping out on the clean.
Right.
I'd want to take that step back in before I press, because you're losing a lot of power. He is so wide.
Right, yeah.
Right now, hard to generate a lot of drive that wide.
Farlow on the left and
He almost
Paulson
did
on
it.
the right, and Paulson will get it. And Paulson is fired up. Get that man on an Echo bike right now.
Anytime for Paulson. He is always fired up.
Jorge Fernandez Heinrich Haperlein, Saxon Panchik, and Nick Matthew are the next men out. Saxon Panchik fails again. Matthews good. Fernandez is good. And Haperlein will miss. So each round so far has been a battle for Saxon Panchik. 280 pounds on that log.
When he gets those elbows up in a good position and doesn't hang out there too long, he gets it done.
Happalainen is good, and Saxon Panchik unable to make it. So it looks like Saxon Panchik is going to be eliminated.
2, 1, lift.
Great recovery there by Henrik and able to execute on his second attempt.
Jonakoski is out there with Gerard and Hopper.
Oh, Ricky's putting up a
fighting
fight
here.
Taking a lot of energy to get that clean.
And unable to hit the jerk. Now, at that point, should you just ditch it and start over?
I think I would start over because try to wrestle that thing into that rack position, really setting up for a bad attempt on the press.
Yeah, it's interesting in that way. It's very different than that sandbag that we watched them do at the games because they only had to get it to their shoulder, so they could put up the fight once the momentum was there.
And Jonakoski was close, but unable to lock it out. Gerard rolling it up. Hopper unable to stabilize. And Ricky Gerard will hit it.
Huge comeback.
Yeah, that's a great lift for him.
Jonakoski and Hopper are out.
You see how he got it in the rack position that time? He kind of pulled his elbows together. So it really held that rack position really well. So when he dipped, log didn't move. And he got all that drive going overhead.
Chandler Smith will step out with Bjorgvin Carl Gudmundsson next. Since the last round bled into that 1 minute window, a little bit more of a break for Chandler Smith and Bjorgvin Carl Gudmundsson.
Yeah, and it's interesting how I'm watching the difference in body language from when we watched women bow out of this event versus men. It seems like the guys are feeling very disappointed as if the weight's there and they just can't hit it, versus the women felt like maybe they were getting to weights where it was like, okay, that was it for me. I'm cool with that, like, end of my event. So I wonder how many of these guys are really struggling with the idea that they just couldn't step up and execute the way they thought they could.
One thing you were saying earlier about what they've hit in barbell press. So I think they probably had those hopes that they're going to hit similar numbers. And it's just a completely different lift for them.
Chandler Smith was able to make his first attempt. Bjorgvin Gudmundsson could not lock out the jerk.
Yeah, Chandler made light work with that 280.
Bjorgvin Gudmundsson trying to get some help here from the fans at Dell Diamond Stadium.
Come on, BKG.
That bar, or the log, pardon me, may have clipped the top of his head on the way down on that last attempt. And Gudmundsson was able to start his lift and unable to get under it. Now Gudmundsson bows out. Roman Krenikov was starting to lift. Didn't get the hold command, and they waved him back because, again, they want to make sure that they start everything on time. Krenikov and Quant will be out next.
It's tough when you're ready to rock and roll, man.
Yeah, especially when you're that walking out to the implement, you're ready to go, and you get that callback, man.
So just holding here to make sure that they fix the log. Now this should be the last round where we have 4 men lifting at a time, because by my count we have 11 men who've been eliminated.
Hey, you were saying earlier about how Roman being in third, he did very well in the sandbag in Madison. He took to it very well. I would expect with his explosive power, he would do well on this log as well. So it might be big points for him.
We're going to wait again. And now everything's been situated. Roman was ready to go, and now he's kind of pacing around there on the right side of your screen in the all black as he awaits his turn at 280 pounds. He and Sam Quant will be the only two men lifting here to close out this round at 280 pounds.
That lion in a cage back there, ready to attack.
Yep. That pace is a familiar one. Anyone that's lined up and played a sport, right? Right before you take the line, right before the snap of the ball, right before the tip off, right before the runners take your mark, whatever it might be. It's that anxious, excited pace that we really can't avoid.
We are set. Roman Krennikov on the right, Sam Quant on the left. 280 pounds.
Good clean. Solid press.
Krennikov has it.
Solid press.
And Quant unable to win that fight.
Roman really looks like he could go quite a few rounds into this. That looked really solid.
He and Chandler Smith are talking things over, and a good chance we might see those two guys going head-to-head for the win here. And Sam Quant into this event in 4th place overall.
Sam had a solid drive on that last rep. His right arm just wasn't quite locked out.
Doesn't have anything left in the tank. Sam Quant bows out at 280 pounds. Take one more look at Roman Krennikov, who continues to look pretty proficient with this thing.
Sits down the lap. Nice tight in the crease of the hip. Rack. Huge press overhead.
He's not spending a bunch of undue time right there in that front rack position. He gets it in good spot, hits the lift, keeps his time under tension low.
Gets in that rack, tightens up, drives, and gets that thing locked out overhead without any kind of hiccup. It's going straight overhead, not wavering out. Notice he's wearing wrist straps to help to keep the wrists locked.
Unofficially, here are the men who are still alive. Scott Tetlow, Tim Paulson, Jorge Fernandez, Nick Matthew, Heinrich Apolainen, Ricky Garrard, Chandler Smith, and Roman Krennikov. It's unofficial, though. As we'll now move to 2 platforms. Athletes being briefed about what's going to be going on here. The weight increases to 290 pounds. Under the lights here on Saturday night at Dell Diamond Stadium.
It's not hard on the eyes, Sean. It's a good place to be.
It has been a fun, action-packed day. We started earlier with the Roga Coaster and the Strongman event. Roman Krennikov has some fans in attendance. And we will conclude competition later on this evening with the final event for the Strongman, as Alexei Novikov is one event away from winning his first ever Rogue Invitational Championship. Scott Tetlow and Tim Paulson will be the first 2 men out. Their names highlighted in white on the left side of your screen. 290 pounds. We're now down to 2 platforms. Sean Woodland with Adrian Conway, and joined in the booth by former America's Strongest Man, Jerry Pritchett, who's been kind enough to share his knowledge with us, and again, sort of the de facto strongman coach for a lot of CrossFit athletes.
Yeah, this has been fun. Awesome event to watch. Just like the sandbag in Madison, all these athletes have attacked it very well. And into numbers that, a lot of seasoned strongman competitors and women competitors have taken years to get to.
See, Tim Paulson was psyching himself up. Final event of the day for the CrossFit athletes. They have 10 total here in this competition. Tetlow and Paulson are ready to go. Impressive. Paulson struggling with the clean, trying to fight through it.
He really needs to point those handles down away from him as he pulls it in the lap. That way he can try to get high up on that abdomen. That way when he starts that drive up, he can kind of kick that log and it'll get that rotation up to the rack. He starts right here with timing those handles down.
Tetlow and Paulson going again. Second attempts for each of them.
Much better clean there for Tetlow.
Tetlow almost had it. Paulson going for his jerk, and Tim Paulson unable to get the lift. Once again, we'll hold for the next minute window as the equipment is adjusted.
And this is why those crash pads are 12 foot long. It really does say a lot for the safety that Rogue puts in mind for this, because there's a lot of strongman competitions that only have maybe a 2 foot pad that the log is on, and really can be dangerous when the athlete starts kind of wandering with that log.
Jorge Fernandez and Heinrich Happelainen will be out next. Fernandez maybe trying to play to the crowd a little bit with the Texas Longhorn shirt.
Not a bad move.
Never hurts to pander.
I'm sure there's some locals that love that.
Yeah. He is from Texas originally. Here comes Heinrich Happelainen and Jorge Fernandez. Happelainen unable to hit the jerk. Fernandez unable to make his lift.
Yeah, we noticed both athletes just starting to get pulled forward by that weight, particularly in the dip. And from what you said, Jerry, it's like they could almost help themselves by having a cleaner clean, a more efficient clean to the shoulders, because then it establishes a better front rack position right out of the gate.
Exactly. It sets up for a good press. It puts yourself in a good position and have a strong press.
So much better.
And Happelainen almost had it.
Just floated out, just a bit, just enough.
And Fernandez not able to hit it.
Got a bad one on the knee.
3, 2, 1, hold.
Yeah, not only does it, the clean's set up for a good rack, but a proper clean will just take the least amount of energy of having to do that where they're just trying to yank it up and spending so much time trying to pull on it. We looked earlier, Roman, he just set into it nicely, rolled that log up really nice and clean, almost like a textbook clean.
Beautiful sunset here in Round Rock, just outside of Austin, Texas. Nothing like a lit ballpark at night.
Beautiful, isn't it? Yeah.
Saturday under the lights, not a better place to be.
Really great aerial right there.
Nick Matthew and Ricky Garrard will be the next two men out. Ricky Garrard has been heading the wrong way in the overall standings right now. 11th place overall. Had a great start to the competition. Back-to-back third place finishes, but since then an 18th, a 10th, an 11th, and then an 18th. Here come Matthew and Garrard. Get to see a man hit 290 pounds. Matthew not able to make it. Garrard wasn't even able to clean it yet. Still plenty of time in the window.
Once he started coming out of the lap, you see how it really stretched him forward.
Yep.
You got to really get locked in that kind of like an upright row position, right? Just to keep it up on your upper abdomen there.
Garrard just trying to muscle.
See how he starts
that thing
coming up and his elbows drop. The elbows really got to be a high row, holding that log in position.
Here comes Nick Matthew for another attempt. Matthew able to make the clean. Not able to make the jerk. Garrard still has yet to complete the clean, and now he has it, but did he spend too much energy getting to this point? And Ricky Garrard just not able to stabilize it.
They spent so much energy on the first couple cleans.
Yeah, and one thing we learned about Ricky, I'll tell you what, he's a fighter. He's going to continue to fight until they tell him to step off that platform.
You got to love that. The competitor goes out there and gives it their all until the whistle blows.
Look at Chandler Smith and Roman
There they go.
Krennikov.
You gotta love it.
They're competing, but they're trying to get each other fired up.
Let's see somebody hit this. They both got a great shot at crushing this.
Yeah, they've had clean lifts thus far.
They're the only two men left right now.
Let's see it, guys.
This is what you dream of as a competitor. The field dwindles. You're one of the last ones, if not the last one on the platform.
This is what you train for, right?
This is it.
These moments right here.
This is literally what fuels the slowest training days, man. When you feel the most beat up, this is it. This is what you visualize. This is it.
The hardest days it was to get out of bed, make yourself train, and get through it. This moment right here, right now.
Chandler Smith and Roman Krennikov trying to become the first men to clear 290. Roman has it.
Wow.
Chandler Smith has it. And here we go.
300 pounds. Here we come.
You gotta love it. You gotta love it. The same hands up position that Chandler Smith gave the audience last year after, in not the prettiest way, getting through that clean and jerk. And now he made that look really smooth.
Both of those were great.
We will move to the center platform and the Texas Oak. Chandler Smith and Roman Krennikov going head-to-head for the win here. And this is big for Roman because, again, if he wins the event, he'll pick up 100 points. And Justin Medeiros went out early. If he finishes, Medeiros does lower than 13th, Roman Krennikov is going to erase that 60-point deficit in one fell swoop.
He's got to have this. I think he knows that. The look in his eye, he knows he has to have this. He wants this.
Chandler Smith could also find himself maybe in the top 4. That's what awaits. 300-pound Texas Oak, that beautiful implement that was crafted by Steve Slater and his son Landon.
Looks like Chandler Smith's going to take the platform first.
Chandler Smith is lower in the overall standing, so he will go first. 300 pounds now.
Here you go. It's your moment. It's trained for.
And just in case neither man is able to lift this log, Roman does have the tiebreak over Chandler.
What you gotta love is the unity of sports here, just being depicted. These two men don't even speak the same language. And yet they understand the position that they're in. They can relate to one another here in this big moment. This is what both of them train for.
But when it comes right here, this moment, they speak this language.
That's it.
They know
it's
this
the only one that
language
matters.
very well, right? You can see that. It's like, you know, CrossFit, the strongman, the camaraderie between the athletes is what I've always loved with the, with the sport. You know, there's not an athlete in the field that I wouldn't throw something from my bag to help if they needed it. You know, you want to see them hit their best lifts? I just want to do the better that they beat them. But come on, let's go.
Chandler Smith up first, 300 pounds.
Wow.
Right, clean.
And he will make it.
Good.
Wow, game on. All right, Roman.
That was Roman Krennikov for his attempt. And Chandler Smith, his father is here watching him compete in person for the first time. Cedric Smith, who is a strength and conditioning coach for the Dallas Cowboys, played football at the University of Florida and was the fullback for Emmitt Smith.
Roman knows what he has to do. Every lift up until this has been flawless, really, with Roman.
We have waited for a long time to see this man compete in person in North America, and so far he has been worth the
There you
wait.
go.
Absolutely worth the wait.
Crowd's behind him.
Puts on a show every time.
Krennikov to tie Smith and move this thing to another round. He won't get it.
clean was a little tougher than his previous cleans. It slid on him a little bit. He's really got to get that high in the abdomen and lock in that high row.
Plenty of time for Roman Krennikov, and Chandler Smith is
Come on, let's go after it.
trying to encourage Krennikov to get through this weight.
The high row. Come on, the elbows high.
And Roman just can't get under it. So Chandler Smith is going to win the event. Roman Krennikov will finish in second place. And a great show put on by those two gentlemen.
I want to see what he can do. Let's go another round.
Let's throw a little weight on there.
Yeah.
Hey, Danny Spiegel win another round when she didn't need to, Chandler. Come on.
What a great event. The Texas Oak did not disappoint.
Chandler Smith picks up his first event win of the competition, and he's gaining some momentum. He finished third in the Duel 2, and now another 100 points added to his total as he continues to climb up.